A Little Respect with Andy Bell. The story of dance music through the eyes of the LGBTQ community.
Dance music is such an inclusive form of music.
The music really unifies so many people from so many different backgrounds.
Wait just a minute, mister. Looks so good.
My eyes, my ears, everything is wide open to the experience.
I made no promises, I can't do golden rings.
The bass was through your chest, the atmosphere was electric.
Music all night long.
It was a place unlike a lot of other clubs.
A Little Respect with Andy Bell. Virgin Radio Pride.
Welcome back to A Little Respect, the story of dance music through the eyes of the LGBTQ community. This is Virgin Pride, and I'm Andy Bell, singer, songwriter, and one half of Erasure. And alongside lots of special guests and experts, I'm celebrating the history of disco, house, pop, and electronica, and the incredible gay men and women that were instrumental in creating a global scene.
I think I'm done with the sofa. With the hall, I think I'm done with the kitchen table, baby. Let's go outside, in the sunshine. I know you want to, but you can't say yes. Let's go outside, in the moonshine. Take me to the places that I love best. So my age says, don't you worry.
Over the last two episodes, we heard the story of how dance music came from the decadent discos of New York, about the electronic pioneers of the 80s and the explosion of house music and acid house, right through to the rise of the super clubs across the UK. As the 90s came to a close, there was a real focus on LGBTQ issues. After George Michael's famous arrest in a Beverly Hills public toilet, his infamous satirical video for the song Outside was a watershed moment for the representation of gay men. The track was a global hit and society was warming to not just Michael's newly confirmed sexuality, but to the gay community as a whole. I loved him.
The crowds are very thick. The mood is very anticipatory. This should be quite something to see.
As Big Ben chimed midnight on a new millennium, there was optimism in the air, and LGBT music began to branch off into its own genres of pop, with new artists like Christina Aguilera, Will Young, Scissor Sisters, The Gossip, RuPaul, Mika, Lady Gaga, and many more hitting the charts.
Wanna give it a go? I first started collecting music, I mean, I never thought, oh, that's a gay record, I'm going to buy that. It wasn't, you know, it's. I think it's something that people that are DJs and on the gay scene just have a real good way of selecting music.
That's Paul Morell, DJ, producer, remixer and resident DJ at XXL Brilliant Club, one of the UK's biggest gay nights.
You know, pioneers, like I said, Tony DeVee and Junior Vasquez, Morales, Frankie Knuckles, all those people, they create music or created music that was very specifically tailored towards a gay crowd. So whether that's due to the tempo, you know, Frankie Knuckles was producing stuff that was in the 120 BPM area, a bit faster, which was a lot faster than a lot of the stuff that was produced before. And it just works in a club environment, because when you hear that music that is produced and you hear it in a club setting, it just really, really makes you want to dance. And I think that is the difference.
Time goes by so slowly for those who wait. No time to hesitate. Those who run seem to have all the fun. I'm caught up. I don't know what to do. Time goes by so slowly. Time goes by so slowly. Time goes by so slowly. I don't know what to do. Every little thing that you say I do, I'm hung up on you. Waiting for your call, baby, night and day. I'm fed up, I'm tired of waiting on you. Every little thing that you say I do, I'm hung up on you. Waiting for your call, baby,
the atmosphere in a gay club, you got, I don't know, a sense of happiness, euphoria. There was no threat. There was just, it was about the music.
That's Amadeus, one half of the Tidy Boys and co-founder of hard dance brand Tidy Tracks.
I think a lot of the straight clubs was about other things. It was about boy meeting girl. The music was a backdrop. Whereas I think in a gay club, ironically, the music and the dance floor was centre stage.
The gay crowd are dancing because they want to have a great time. In a straight club, it's usually, if you can make the girls dance, the guys will dance as well. And that's, you know, I've seen both sides of it because I started my career in straight clubs and I still play in straight clubs. If you can get the girls dancing, then the guys will get on the dance floor, and that's what it's all about. Whereas gay clubs is just about having a great time, I think. But again, that's where people like even David Guetta and Calvin Harris, Freemasons, again, as I said earlier, they're just great at taking pop records and making them sound accessible to a dance floor. So you could have something that's a really slow Beyonce record like the Ring the Alarm, Drunk in Love. And it's like a slow ballad, but it takes it to that next level. And that's a really good way of making something cross over into a gay club, just adding a really good beat to it and making it sound pumping. And I think that's the key to any gay club record. It's got to be accessible and it's got to make people want to dance.
In the 2000s, there was this kind of big house revival with people like the Freemasons producing loads and loads of remixes for quite iconic R&B artists. So people like Beyonce, Rihanna, all of those R&B artists suddenly became accessible to a dance music crowd, and therefore it opened, I think what it did is it opened dance music up to mainstream America, and that made the dance scene more accessible internationally. I've got a lot to thank them for converting dance music across to the masses, because they just had such a huge run of massive hits.
Meanwhile, in the clubs, US electronic trio The Ones, I thought they were English, never mind, were having a huge hit with Flawless, an ode to drag queens and gay folk everywhere, with lyrics detailing the grace and attention to physical detail the LGBTQ community was stereotypically known for.
It's like perfection. It's like perfection. Like no other, flawless. It's like perfection. Like no other, flawless, absolutely flawless.
Another out-and-out proud band coming out of America in the early 2000s were the Scissor Sisters.
I think since our first album has come out, there's so many different indie bands and rock bands and pop stars that have come out, and that's not necessarily like linked in their kind of queer identity to what they do on stage in the way that we do. It's just weird that it still sticks to us, but there's, you know, you have Vampire Weekend or The Gossip, or Ricky Martin or whomever, and it's just like, the pop world is littered with homosexuals, and has always been, so we're just unashamed of it.
Though not strictly a dance or electronic act, Jake Shears & Co. were a shining beacon of the new era and were nominated for a Grammy for this disco take on a Pink Floyd classic.
Is there anybody in there? Just not if you can hear me. Is there anybody home? Come on now. I hear you're feeling down. Well, I can't ease your pain, and get you on your feet again. Relax. I need some information first. Relax. Just the basic facts. Can you show me where it hurts? There is no pain you are receiving. A distant ship floats on the horizon. You're only coming through in waves. Your lips move, but I can't hear what you're saying. When I was a child, I caught a fever. My hands felt like two balloons. Now I've got that feeling once again. I can't explain, you would not understand. This isn't how I am. Become comfortably numb. Okay. It's just a little pinprick. There'll be no more but you may feel a little sick. Can you stand up now? I do believe it's working. Gotta keep it going through the show. Come on, it's time to go. Gotta keep it going through the show. Come on, it's time to go. Gotta keep it going through the show. Come on, it's time to go. Gotta keep it going through the show. Come on, it's time to go. There is no pain you are receiving. A distant ship floats on the horizon. You're only coming through in waves. Your lips move, but I can't hear what you're saying. When I was a child, I caught a fleeting glimpse out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look, but it was gone. Can I put my finger on the child?
The mainstream clubbing scene was also becoming much more open, with gay-friendly clubs being the place to go out on a Saturday night.
Things like Miss Moneypenny's in Birmingham, Speed Queen in Leeds. They had this very accepting gay crowd that was, they'd quite often have drag queens on the doors. They'd have a very gay sounding music policy.
Outside of London, the early to mid-2000s saw a boom in the Midlands and the north of England's queer clubbing scene.
I've got peace deep in my soul. I've got love making me whole. Since you've opened up your heart and shined on me.
There was always this, I know it's a northern charm, or I don't know if it's they live for the weekend. You work hard all week, and then there's just this sense of release on Saturday nights. There's always this sense of, there's always a party. And the North are generally friendlier, so it's always been like, by the end of the night, you'll be hugging a stranger. Hi, I am Jamie Bull, resident DJ for Homo Electric. In the early 2000s, I was DJing at Speed Queen. I was a resident there, and I was a resident at Paradise Factory. Spending most of my time in Manchester, there was definitely a sea change around about the year 2000, because Queer as Folk had come along, and it kind of shone a light on Canal Street that was probably a little bit of our own secret for a long time, and it felt like the secret was out, and the original community that was Canal Street was serving, things have changed with social media and with apps and technology, so you don't need to physically go to these spaces to find your tribe. You know, you've got things that have moved online. I would say that's a big difference in the 20 years that I have been going there, is the progression from it being for a specific set of people and it being quite, this is our space and this is our secret almost. So it being blown open.
While the gay clubbing scene was having a real boom in the mid-2000s, back in America, ironically where it all started, there was and is still a lot to be done.
You know, clubs over in America where it's still like bottle service and like girls in like bikinis and hot pants, and it's just like, it just feels so far away. Like EDM just feels so far away from what the house music world is doing, and I just really want to, you know, try and represent more, you know, and try and move it in a direction where house music has gone, and yeah, you know, have more idols and more people that you can look up to when you start out and go, actually, do you know what? Look, there they are, they're queer and they're at the top of their game in this genre, and I love this genre and I want to be doing that. Do you know what I mean?
That's British DJ and trance producer Farius.
You've also got someone like Jodie Harsh, who is obviously having amazing success, mainstream success now. I've known Jodie for years. I used to play at one of her club nights, you know, and there she is signing a huge record deal with Warner and releasing on a major label as a drag queen. And it's like, it's incredible. Like, if you told me that would happen like 10 years ago, like, it's not like 10 years ago, you know, we were particularly marginalised, or it wasn't like we were particularly shut out, but it's like I never ever would have thought, wow, a drag queen signed to Warner and releasing, and it's just so exciting, and it's so wicked to see that happening.
Hi, I'm Jodie Harsh. I'm a DJ producer. I've DJed at clubs all over the country, all sorts of different club brands with all sorts of different superstar DJs, and I've even DJed at Wembley opening for the Spice Girls, and I've DJed for Madonna and all sorts of fun parties like that. First started going out probably early 2000s, maybe 2003, 2004. And that's when I was sort of coming of age and hitting the clubs and stuff. And there were so many big supermassive gay clubs, queer clubs. And because of stuff like gentrification and the internet and dating apps and whatever, those have just all, the most of them have now gone away, which is okay. I mean, the super club has kind of died a death, I guess, in queerland, I guess. You know, clubs like Trade and Fiction and Pop Stars. But then interestingly, some of the more traditionally straight clubs are quite mixed now. Like you could go to Glitterbox, which is, you know, a club set up by a load of straight people. It's very queer friendly. There are queer people there partying and stuff. So I think just as queer people are accepted into society more and more, the race, the strive for that isn't quite over, but because we are more accepted, I think we can go to other places. I definitely don't think that the need for a queer space has gone at all. In fact, I think the opposite. I think it's essential to have safe queer spaces and places where queer people can get together and share music, feel safe, express themselves, meet new people. But I do think that it's opened up a lot more now.
You're listening to A Little Respect on Virgin with me, Andy Bell, the story of how queer culture and gay people created and influenced dance music over the last 50 years. One of the modern heroes of the scene over the last decade or so are a collective called Horse Meat Disco, brilliant, based out of Vauxhall in London. Their parties, DJ sets, tracks and compilations have gone global, and their events at the Eagle in London have become a thing of legend. TT Bang is one of the first female drag queens to appear on mainstream TV, starring in Channel 4's drag SOS, and she spent some of her formative years at their parties.
I spent a lot of time in East London, going to places like Savage Disco and the Eagle to see Horse Meat Disco on a Sunday, and kind of exploring my queerness through different DJs. I'd say definitely, Horse Meat Disco are iconic, and some of my first sort of nights listening to really good disco music was in their club night.
So they Saturday I had this idea to bring back the disco in a gay community, because we're talking about mid of 2000, like 2005 and stuff like that.
That's Severino from Horse Meat Disco.
It was very interesting that nobody was doing something that in theory started in with the gays and gay places like Paradise Garage, Studio 54, the disco music in the 70s in America. So the idea was okay, we play disco. Obviously, we can play also the obvious records from Donna Summer, Diana Ross, and Sisters Led. But to get more deeper and digging into some sort of more serious and more cooler. So definitely the music has always been okay, I'm gonna do that club because the music is fun, it's back to the disco. So disco has got this sort of fun and happy energy, the look and dream of like being open. Like we always been like, okay, you know, we are gay guys, the party's gay, but like girls and straight and all the kind of like sexuality they can come. So like I think they were feeling this kind of vibe, and straight away like became so easy. And then it's been like a combination of like, we started putting out some compilation, and then I guess obviously Glastonbury went 10 years ago. It was like definitely like a major exposure for the straight culture. So like for us it was always important to be whatever. We are this, and you know, people they have accepted us, so it's cool. You know, if you understand the vibe is perfect. Being involved with Glitterbox and with the Fetid and the guys from, you know, Simon Dunmore, Luke Solomon has been obviously another level, like another more professional step level, that's for sure.
The Balearic island of Ibiza has always been one of the clubbing capitals of the world and a bastion of freedom, tolerance and diversity in music. In the 2010s, British club brand Defected launched a brand new night and concept that ramped up the original ethos and celebrated all things queer. Here's Defected boss Simon Dunmore talking to Roger Sanchez about the roots of their wildly successful Glitterbox party on Roger's podcast, The Hustle.
There was a little bit of luck involved, as there normally is. Basically, we were promoting a night at Boom. It was going exceptionally well. The rest of the nights at the club weren't doing well, and the owner asked me to promote a second night, and I said I can't promote a second house night, but I have an idea. There's an audience coming to Ibiza. They want to listen to the records that they listened to in the 1990s, early 2000s, and to bring some flamboyant back into clubbing, because it just the character. I remember going to Ibiza when I first went in 1986 to 1988. I could remember character, like very just like people that were extreme in their fashion or their sexuality or whatever, and that made a huge impression on me. We just brought a little bit of that back to the island, and it clearly really resonated. So, but the thing about it was it just grew very organically. It's continuing to grow at a rate, and we were lucky because we managed to curate a night at the brand new club on the island called High, formerly Space, and I think we were a popular party, and the two just really kind of like elevated each other to the point where 6,500 people at the closing.
Just give me something, babe. Feel like I'm going crazy. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. When the streets are burned and the world keeps turning, there's nothing that I can hold on to. Just give me something, babe. Feel like I'm going crazy. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. When the streets are burned and the world keeps turning, there's nothing that I can hold on to.
Glitterbox has been at the forefront of bringing back the disco sounds of the 70s into the modern era, with a whole new generation of people, both gay and straight, rediscovering the kinds of sounds that started the whole thing off back in the clubs of New York at the start of our journey.
Disco sound is really, really massive and works in both the commercial straight scene, but not only is that sound crossing over from the gay scene and the disco sound of the 70s, but it's also being used, on a lot of really kind of what you would say is commercial pop records as well. So it's quite interesting how that sound has crossed over.
A Little Respect with Andy Bell. The story of dance music through the eyes of the LGBTQ community. Virgin Radio Pride.
I mean, I'm so fortunate that I grew up in a generation where I was able to get access to these spaces, because I think for such a long time, especially in the 80s, it was really underground and you did have to look for it. But I mean, you only have to look as far as, Studio 54 and all of these iconic venues in New York to see that queer people were really at the front of dance music and nightlife culture, and we really have spearheaded it. And I think that's been enjoyed by the mainstream so much that they've learned that we're not any different to them, and that we can all be unified. Our life experiences may be different and our experiences in the world may be different, but we all have something that can unite us. And luckily enough, dance music is one of those things that just brings people together, because you can't deny a funky beat and a jamming bass line. And I think the way that we express ourselves with our bodies when you're on the dance floor, you really are next to people who probably have a very different outlook in life from you and come from a very different background than you. But the music just takes you, and the rhythm takes you, and you're able to express yourselves closely and rub shoulders and sweaty bodies of people of all different walks of life. And fortunately, queer people have just been at the very front of that. So we really are. We are the spearheads of the movement.
Every day and night. Are you gonna be the one who's always gonna treat me right? And when we get together, turning down the lights, need you 100, need you 100%. I wanna be the one you tell all your friends about. Baby, I'll be the one you just can't do without. You gotta give me everything, baby, ain't no doubt. Give me 100, need you 100%. Need you 100%. I wanna be the one you tell all your friends about. Baby, I'll be the one you just can't do without. You gotta give me everything, baby, ain't no doubt. Give me 100, need you 100%.
Well, there's certainly a lot more career opportunities for the community than ever before, and we're much more accepted nowadays than we've ever been.
Paul Masterson.
I mean, the very fact that we've got artists such as Sam Smith, Ollie Alexander from Years and Years, MNEK, they've broken through with so much flamboyance, which is really encouraging.
We're hurtling headlong into the modern era on our journey through dance music, through the eyes of the queer community, and the last 10 years have really seen LGBTQ artists leading the way in terms of success and innovation. English singer-songwriter and producer MNEK has been nominated for a Grammy, and his credits include working with Little Mix, Dua Lipa, Clean Bandit, Christina Aguilera, Becky Hill, Selena Gomez, Beyonce, Madonna, and many more. He's also recently set up a songwriting camp for LGBT talent. Maybe I should go.
I think now is the time to really platform the queer people that are making the scene happen, because for a long time we were there, but we were not given maybe the attention that we deserved within the mainstream. And now queer people and queer DJs, people like Honey Dijon, who is a black trans woman, they are really becoming so much more visible. And I think that is only going to make us move forward. I mean, I'm so lucky to be part of the Glitterbox family, and Glitterbox really is spearheading this message of inclusivity, and everybody is welcome on the dance floor.
I think the most exciting thing for me now is that it feels like it's going back to its roots. I think the queer scene is the ones that are pushing the way, honestly.
That's Honey Dijon, a trans woman who's really made her mark on the scene in the last few years. In a fantastic conversation with Mixmag, you can watch on their YouTube channel.
I think the young queer people of color and the new black kids that are making house music, they're, you know, that's the most exciting thing for me right at the moment. That's where the most vibrant, colorful energy is coming from. So I think for me, parties that sort of, you know, going back to its roots, its diversity, its flamboyance, its freedom, and you know, those are the exciting things for me now.
Things are changing, life's rearranging. Happy times are coming your way. Hold your head up, don't be discouraged. Better times are coming your way. This is what you want. This is what you want.
In recent years, a new breed of young and confident, out and proud ambassadors like Ollie Alexander and his band Years and Years have built on the progress made by the LGBTQ heroes that came before them and used their platform to bring our issues to the forefront. The recent TV series, It's a Sin, was another landmark moment in television and culture for the gay community. I must admit, I haven't watched it yet because it's too heartbreaking, but I will.
I remember how shocking Queer as Folk was in the early 90s, and you know, to have It's a Sin on now, that's going into mainstream kind of homes in the evening. To see something like that on mainstream TV is just really crazy. So I think we have come a long way, but there is still a bit of a way to go as well.
Here's Ollie Alexander being interviewed on Channel 4 News, spreading a message of positivity for the next generation of young queer people.
You know, I was quite effeminate at school, and I got bullied for not sort of fitting this what a man should be. And so, well, I guess my advice would be that the things that, you know, if I was talking to an LGBT person who was going through this, I would say the things that you feel make you a target and make you a target for bullying and are actually the things about you that are beautiful and amazing and unique and are going to propel you to be the unique, strong, wonderful person that you are, and to try and find your brothers and sisters within the community, you know, to try and talk about what you're going through, which can be really hard for young people to find what that is, like, you know, but thankfully now, you know, we have online tools for that, and I would just encourage like young kids to try and seek out support from either friends or from people they trust, but it's not easy and it's a long process, you know.
I caught you watching me under the light. Can I be a line? They say it's easy to leave you behind. I don't wanna try. Cut cover, take that test. Hold courage to your chest. Don't wanna wait for you. Don't wanna have to lose all that I've compromised to feel another high. I've got to keep it down tonight. And oh, I was a king under your control. And oh, I wanna feel like you've let me go. So let me go. Don't you remember chest. Don't wanna wait for you, don't wanna have to lose all that I've compromised to feel another high. I've got to keep it down tonight. And oh, I was a king under your control. Oh, I wanna feel like you've let me go. I had to break myself to carry on. No love and no admission. Take this from me tonight. Oh, let's fight. Oh, let's fight. Oh, let's fight.
How do you undo sort of like decades, if not longer, of oppression, I suppose, and discrimination, and feeling like you aren't, it's not comfortable for you to be your authentic self, you know, or that the wider world doesn't accept you. Like, it's very hard to suddenly, we are going to flip a switch and suddenly everything's okay, you know. It's undoing, like, you know, a lifetime's worth of TV shows, of you know, seeing people in public, and, you know, like growing up in a culture that tells you that you have to be one way and not another, and that, you know, so I think we're still suffering from all of that.
There's undoubtedly been a huge amount of progress and triumph over the last few years, but the queer community has still faced its tragedies.
Good evening, and as we come on the air this Sunday night, America is just now coming to grips with what unfolded here in the early morning hours here in Orlando. A massacre at a gay nightclub right here behind me. You can see the sign, it's black and white, just over my shoulder here. And at the center of it all, a lone gunman who, in the middle of that massacre, called 911 to pledge allegiance to ISIS.
On the 12th of June in 2016, a 29-year-old man opened fire in Pulse, a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida. The attack killed 49 people and wounded 53 more. And though the incident was officially classed as a terrorist plot by the FBI, the chosen location was a tragic and timely reminder that many cultures are still sadly yet to accept the gay community with fully open arms. The LGBT music community also lost a shining star very recently in the shape of electronic experimentalist Sophie, reported on here by E! News in America.
Grammy-nominated producer-musician Sophie has died at the age of 34. Sophie was a Scottish-born, LA-based artist and an LGBTQ+ icon who was known for producing an avant-garde style of electronic pop music. After Sophie's sudden passing, their rep announced the news in a statement to NPR and other outlets, saying, "It is with profound sadness that I have to inform you that musician and producer Sophie passed away this morning around 4 a.m. in Athens."
A Little Respect with Andy Bell. The story of dance music through the eyes of the LGBTQ community. Virgin Radio Pride.
Wonderful Sophie was part of the new digital generation of musicians and performers. Technology, dating apps, the internet and social media have completely changed how we make music, but also how we live and communicate. We're a long way from those members-only clubs and underground venues where queer people had to hide away to celebrate and dance. The new world is online and offers a whole new way to find a community, but I still love to dance.
it's very interesting to see how, again, internet and all the apps, they completely change quite radically the scene, especially for gays, but actually like change every kind of scene, even for straight people, I think.
Thanks to social media, if you have a tribe of people, a community, you can put on a Facebook event and just say, here's a postcode, get an Uber, and it's become more fluid.
I think social media is the biggest game changer here. I think people get a chance to represent themselves online, and that's quite a powerful thing. There are communities out there for those that don't fit and don't feel that they conform to whether gender norms. And I think that's a really powerful thing, because I think growing up feeling different, whether it's because of your size, your sexuality, or gender, the colour of your skin, it's a very alienating experience, and you need to feel that there are other people like you out there. There's something deeply reassuring when you find your tribe. So I think that the internet and social media gives people a chance to find their tribe in a way that perhaps nightclubs did very specifically for us in that time, in the early 90s.
Are you drunk enough now to judge what I'm doing? Are you high enough to excuse that I'm ruined? 'Cause I'm ruined. Is it late enough for you to come and stay over? 'Cause we're free to love, so tease me. I made no promises, I can't do golden rings, but I'll give you everything. Magic is in the air, there ain't no science here, so come get your everything. I made no promises, I can't do golden rings, but I'll give you everything. Magic is in the air, there ain't no science here, so come get your everything. Tonight.
You acting tonight?
Is it loud enough? 'Cause my body is calling for you, calling for you. I need someone to do the things that I do. I'm healing on, energy taking control. I'm speeding up, my heart beats dancing alone. I made no promises, I can't do golden rings, but I'll give you everything. Magic is in the air, there ain't no science here, so come get your everything. I made no promises, I can't do golden rings, but I'll give you everything. Magic is in the air, there ain't no science here, so come get your everything. Tonight.
We've all seen the articles and the think pieces where people are like, Pride is not about Barclays Bank slapping a rainbow on its shop doorways and sponsoring Pride floats. But actually, it's quite magnificent that Barclays Bank are putting a rainbow outside their front door on the British High Street, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, the corporate nature of that might sort of, the intentions behind it might be a bit questionable for some people, but I can walk down a high street in June, anywhere in this country, and just see rainbows everywhere. That didn't happen when I was a kid. So I don't know that it's such a bad thing, but definitely the people sort of coming on board onto the Pride bandwagon has definitely increased. And I don't think it's a bad thing.
I think what you need is an all-round tolerance for the gay community that is instilled in people from a young age. I know schools are doing a great job of promoting LGBTQ plus issues because prejudice, whether that be racism, sexism, whatever it is, that starts early. And I think if we tackle that early on through education, that's what will make a difference in the scene in 10, 20 years' time.
Well, the scene has undoubtedly been run by straight, white, rich guys, but I do think gay artists are much more able to control their careers in a way which we couldn't do before social media. We now have the ability to write and record and distribute music from our bedroom, or even become the next drag star from our bedroom. So perhaps the reliance on these individuals or corporations to reach audiences is not what it used to be.
George Michael, when he was dragged out of the closet by the newspapers in quite a degrading way, I don't think that would happen now. So the support and the space for artists to be creative and provide great art for the world, regardless of what their sexuality is, I think it's definitely more open now and accepting.
The music really unifies so many people from so many different backgrounds and kind of gives you a common ground to be able to relate to people that may have had similar experiences as queer people, but maybe different experiences, but you all have this unifying bond through music and through dance.
Through music, through dancing, through being creative and creating a community, I literally created this huge phenomenon that still right now influences a lot of people. So music is very important. It's a way to carry messages. It's also magical way, I guess, to connect with people. For us to be able to be on a dance floor and dress up the way we want, or being able to show our true self and not being judged, not feeling scared, not feeling threatened is very amazing. And all of that is based around being able to listen to music or make music and dance.
It's not your age, it's not your gender, it's not your orientation, it's not your body size, it's your attitude. And if you blur those lines, if you do away with labels and genres and all of that, if you blur the lines a bit, that's where the magic happens, really.
Thanks for listening to A Little Respect on Virgin Pride, the story of how LGBTQ people were instrumental in creating dance and nurturing a global music scene. I'm Andy Bell, and I hope you've enjoyed our journey through 5 decades of music and memories. We'd like to give a little respect to all those extraordinary pioneers, misfits, megastars, and unsung heroes who've done their own little bit for queer culture and music, many of whom we didn't get a chance to mention in this programme. A Little Respect was produced for Virgin Radio UK by This Is Distorted. It was written and produced by Andy Durant, with additional writing, research and interviews by Ryan Winders and Jake Gable.
I try to discover a little something to make me sweeter. Oh baby, refrain from breaking my heart.